A friend of mine, who was a man of letters and a philosopher, said to me one day, as if between jest and earnest, "Fancy, since we last met, I have discovered a haunted house in the midst of London." "Really? Haunted? And by what? Ghosts?" Well, I can't answer these questions. All I know is 6 weeks ago, I and my wife in search of a furnished apartment. Passing a quiet street, we saw in the window of one of the houses a bill, "Apartments furnished." The situation suited us. We entered the house, liked the rooms, engaged them by the week, and left them the third day. No power on earth could have reconciled my wife to stay longer, and I don't wonder at it. "What did you see?" "Excuse me, I have no desire to be ridiculed as a superstitious dreamer, nor, on the other hand, could I ask you to accept my affirmation, what you would hold to be incredible without the evidence of your own senses. Let me only say this, it was not so much that we saw or heard, in which you might fairly suppose that we were the dupes of our own excited fancy, or the victims of imposture in others, that drove us away, as it was an undefinable terror which seized both of us whenever we passed the door of a certain unfurnished room, in which we neither saw nor heard anything. And the strangest marvel of all was that for once in my life I agreed with my wife, silly woman though she be, and allowed after the third night that it was impossible to stay for a fourth in that house. Accordingly, on the fourth morning, I summoned the woman who kept the house and attended on us, and told her that the rooms did not quite suit us, and we would not stay out our week. She said dryly, "I know why. You have stayed longer than any other lodger. Few ever stayed a second night, none before you a third. But I take it that they have been very kind to you." "You excite my curiosity," said I. "Nothing should I like better than to sleep in a haunted house. Pray give me the address of the one which you left so ignominiously." My friend gave me the address, and when we parted, I walked straight towards the house thus indicated. It was a summer night, but chilly, the sky somewhat gloomy and overcast, and still there was a moon, faint and sickly, but still a moon, and if the clouds permitted, after midnight it would be brighter. I reached the house, knocked, and my servant opened with a cheerful smile. "All right, sir, and very comfortable." "Oh," said I, rather disappointed, "have you not seen or heard anything remarkable?" "Well, sir, I must own I have heard something queer." What? The sound of feet pattering behind me, and once or twice small noises like whispers close in my ear. Nothing more. "You are not at all frightened?" "I? Not a bit of it, sir," said the man's bold look reassured me in one point, viz. That, happen what might, he would not desert me. Coming back, had not observed the movement of the chair. He employed himself now in stilling the dog. I continued to gaze on at the chair, and fancied I saw in it a pale, blue, misty outline of a human figure, but an outline so indistinct that I could only distrust my own vision. The dog now was quiet. "Put back that chair opposite me," said I. "Put it back to the wall." He obeyed. "Was that you, sir?" he said, turning abruptly. "I? What?" "Why, something struck me. I felt it sharply on the shoulder just here." "No," said I, "but we have jugglers present, and though we may not discover their tricks, we shall catch them before they frighten us." Before we had finished his sentence, the door, which neither of us then was touching, opened quietly of itself. We looked at each other a single instant. The same thought seized both. Some human agency might be detected here. I rushed in first, my servant followed. A small, blank and dreary room without furniture. A few empty boxes and hampers in a corner. A small window. The shutters closed, not even a fireplace. No other door but that which we had entered, and no carpet on the floor. And the floor seemed very old, uneven, worm-eaten, mended here and there, as was shown by the wider patches on the wood, but no living being, and no visible place in which a living being could live. As we stood gazing around, the door by which we had entered closed as quiet as it had before opened. We were imprisoned. For the first time, I felt a creep of undefinable horror. Not so my servant. "Why, they don't think to trap us, sir. I could break that trumpery door with a kick of my foot." "Try first if it will open to your hand," said I, shaking off the vague apprehension that had seized me, "while I open the shutters and see what is without." I unbarred lowered the shutters. The window looked onto the little backyard, and I have before described there was no ledge without, nothing but sheer descent. No man getting out of that window would have any footing till he had fallen to the stones below. The letters were short, and they were dated, the dates exactly 35 years ago. They were evidently from a lover to his mistress, or a husband to some young wife. Not only in terms of expression, but a distinct reference to a former voyage indicated the writer to have been a seafarer. The spelling and handwriting were those of a man imperfectly educated, but still the language itself was forcible. In the expressions of endearment, there was a kind of rough, wild love, but here and there was a dark, unintelligible hint at some secret not of love, some secret that seemed of crime. We ought to love each other was one of the sentences I remember, for how everyone else would execrate us if it was all known again. Don't let anyone be in the same room with you at night. You talk in your sleep, and again, what's done can't be undone. I tell you, there's nothing against us unless the dead would come back to life. And here there was underlined in a better handwriting of females, they do. At the end of the letter, latest in date, the same female hand had written these words: lost at sea, the 4th of June, the same day as. Except again as truthful details of spirit manifestation in America, musical or other sounds, writings on paper, produced by no discernible hand, articles of furniture, moved without apparent human agency, or the actual sight and touch of hands to which no body seemed to belong. Still there must be found the medium, or living being, with constitutional peculiarities capable of obtaining these signs. In fine, in all such marvels, supposing even that there is no imposture, there must be a human being like ourselves, by whom or through whom the effects presented to human beings are produced. It is so with the now familiar phenomenon of mesmerism or electrobiology. The mind of the person operated on is affected through a material living agent. Nor, supposing it true that a mesmerized person can respond to the will or the passes of a mesmer 100 miles distant, is the response less occasioned by a material being. It may be through a material fluid, call it electric, call it odic, call it what you will, which has the power of traversing space and passing obstacles, that the material effect is communicated from one to the other. Hence all that I have hitherto witnessed or expected to witness in this strange house, I believe to be occasioned through some agency or medium as mortal as myself, and this idea necessarily prevented the awe with which those who regard as supernatural things that are not with the ordinary operations of nature might have been impressed by the adventures of that memorable night. I now became aware that something interposed between the page and the light. The page was overshadowed. I looked up, and I saw what I shall find it very difficult, perhaps impossible, to describe. There was a darkness shaping itself out of the air in a very undefined outline. I cannot say it was of a human form, and yet it had more resemblance to a human form, or rather shadow, than anything else. And as it stood wholly apart and distinct from the air and the light around it, its dimensions seemed gigantic, the summit nearly touching the ceiling. While I gazed, a feeling of intense cold seized me. An iceberg before me could not have more chilled me, nor could the cold of an iceberg have been more purely physical. I feel convinced that it was not the cold caused by fear. As I continued to gaze, I thought, but this I cannot say with precision, that I distinguished two eyes looking down on me from the height. One moment I deemed to distinguish them clearly, the next they seemed gone, but still two rays of pale blue light frequently shot through the darkness, as from the height of which I half believed, half doubted, that I had encountered the eyes. And now as this impression grew on me, now came at last horror to a degree that no words can convey. Still, I retained pride, if not courage, and in my own mind I said, if this is horror, but it is not fear. Unless I fear, I cannot be harmed. My reason rejects with a violent effort, and I succeeded at last in stretching out my hands towards the weapon on the table. As I did so, on the arm and the shoulder I received a strange shock, and my arm fell to my side powerless. And now, to add to my horror, the light began to slowly wane from the candles. They were not, as it were, extinguished, but their flame seemed very gradually withdrawn, and it was the same with the fire. The light was extracted from the fuel, and in a few minutes the room was in utter darkness. The dread that came over me to be thus in the dark with that dark thing, whose power was so intensely felt, brought a reaction of nerve. In fact, terror had reached that climax, that either my senses must have deserted me, or I must have burst through the spell. In one of the drawers we found a miniature portrait set in gold, and retaining the freshness of its colors, most remarkably considering the length of time it had been there. The portrait was that of a man who might have been somewhat advanced in middle life, perhaps 47 or 48. It was a most peculiar face, a most impressive face. If you could fancy some mighty serpent transformed into man, preserving the human lineaments of the old serpent type, you would have a better idea of the continents than long descriptions can convey. The width and flatness of frontal and tapering elegance of contour disguising the strength of the deadly jaw. The long, terrible eye, glittering in green as an emerald, and withal a certain ruthless calm, as if from the consciousness of an immense power. The strange thing was this: the instant I saw the miniature, I recognized a startling likeness to one of the rarest portraits in the world. A portrait of a man of rank, only below that royalty, and who his own day who had made a considerable noise. History says little or nothing of him, but search the correspondence of his contemporaries and you'll find reference to his wild daring, his bold profligacy, and his restless spirit, his taste for the occult sciences. While still in the meridian of life, he died and was buried, so say the chronicles, in a foreign land. He died in a time to escape the grasp of the law, for he was accused of crimes which would have given him to the headsman. After his death, the portraits of him, which had been numerous, for he had been a munificent encourager of art, were bought up and destroyed, it was supposed, by his heirs, who might have been glad could they have raised his very name from their splendid line. He enjoyed a vast wealth. A large portion of this was believed to have been embezzled by a favorite astrologer and soothsayer. At all events, it had unaccountably vanished at the time of his death. One portrait alone of him was supposed to have escaped the general destruction. I had seen it in the house of a collector some months before, and it had been made on me a wonderful impression, as it does on all who behold it. A face never to be forgotten. And there was that face in the miniature that lay within my hand. True that in the miniature the man was a few years older than the portrait I had seen, or than the original was even at the time of his death, but a few years? Why, between the date in which flourished that direful noble and the date in which the miniature was evidently painted, there was an interval of more than 2 centuries. While I was thus gazing, silent and wondering, but is it possible? I have known this man. How? Where? Cried I. In India. He was high in the confidence of the Raja, and well nigh drew him into a revolt which would have lost the Raja his dominions. The man was a Frenchman. He was clever, bold, and lawless. He insisted on his dismissal and banishment. It must have been the same man, no 2 faces like his, yet this miniature seems nearly 100 years old. Mechanically I turned around the miniature and examined the back of it, and on the back was engraved a pentacle. In the middle of the pentacle a ladder, and the 3rd step of the ladder was formed with the date 1765. Examining still more minutely, I detected a spring on this. On being pressed, opened the back of the miniature as a lid, and within the side of this lid were engraved, Mariana, to thee, be faithful in life and in death. Here follows a name I will not mention, but it is not unfamiliar to me. I had heard it spoken by old men in my childhood as the name borne by a dazzling charlatan who had made a great sensation in London for a year or so, and fled the country on the charge of a double murder within his own house, that of his mistress and his rival. I said nothing, to whom reluctantly I resigned the miniature. So ends this strange story, which I ask no one to believe. I write it down exactly 3 months after I received the above note. Could not write it before, and could I show it in in spite of his urgent request.